Today is September 30th. Welcome on in to Daily Cards Live here on ClaibsOnline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Bob Ramsey. Tomorrow on our show, we will break down all of the playoff matchups in the wild card round. Now that we know both the Mets and Braves are in there, today's show is going to be pretty much, I would say, 90%, 95% about the press conference that happened earlier this afternoon. But Rammer, before we get started here, we need to acknowledge the passing of the hit king. Pete Rose passes away earlier today at the age of 83 out in Nevada. Never got a chance to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame while he was alive.
Yeah, Pete Rose, obviously, the hit total just speaks for itself. He was a marvelous player. He wasn't a great defensive player, but he was a good enough ball player that he could play virtually every position. I don't think he ever played much short. Came up as a second baseman, played third, played first, played all three outfield spots. Again, not a great defender, but good enough that you could put him anywhere, and he goes out and goes 4 for 5 that night. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. You got a good bat. You'll find, you got a good bat. Your coach will find somewhere to put you on that out in the field.
Charlie Hustle obviously played the game hard all the time. And it's too bad more players didn't try to emulate him over the years. A great switch hitter. He was just a terrific player. The biggest insult his family could get would be for baseball to put him in the Hall of Fame now. In fact, they should refuse it, because here's a guy whose career should have put him in the Hall of Fame. Now, I do make a distinction. He shouldn't have been able to work in the game. That's the rule. You're out of baseball forever. This is the Baseball Writers Museum. And the fact that the commissioner couldn't see that commissioners, plural, couldn't see that distinction and let the writers vote is a travesty. He should have been in the Hall of Fame. And they should not put him in now. That posthumous entries into halls of fame is really quite cold-hearted, and it would be a horrible mistake, and it would be disgusting, actually, if they did that, in my view.
Yeah, I never got a chance to see him play. I wasn't old enough, I guess, when the ban came out. I'm trying to think, what year was he banned from baseball?
Oh, would that have been 80? When did that happen? 86, I want to say.
So yeah, I wouldn't have been old enough to remember everything that went down when that happened. I just know as the years have gone on, I remember reading his book, writing a paper on his book my senior year of high school when that came out, as he admitted to betting on baseball and thinking that was going to be just enough to get him into the Hall of Fame when he made that confession and made that admission at that point in his life. But I mean, here we sit 20 years later and baseball still never let him in.
Yeah, they should have. It's a black mark on the decision makers. And I can't tell you who or who didn't, but to my knowledge, why the writers didn't have a groundswell of support for him. Again, I want to be clear. He should never have been allowed to work in baseball. But his playing career stands on its own as a remarkable, one of the best players of all time. Yep. Period. End of discussion for me. So I hope he doesn't get in, because it would be an insult to his family and his memory, in my opinion.
On to the biggest news of the day, the press conference that happened at 2:00 this afternoon. A lot to unwrap, a lot to uncover. And from what we learned today, the biggest points of that is that 2025 will be the last year of John Mozeliak as the president of baseball operations. Following that, Chaim Bloom will take over in that role. and I guess many other roles throughout the organization. This is now going to be the Chaim Bloom era. We went from the Walt Jocketty era to the Mo era. We are now settling in on entering the Bloom era of Cardinal baseball. GM Michael Gersh has been moved to the head of special projects, whatever that might mean for his title with the Cardinals. I know that wasn't covered. He wasn't there at the press conference today, but initially, I mean, I don't think it's very rare that we kind of get a 1 year heads up to, hey, these guys are going to run it for this year, but next year, these are the guys that are going to run it. There's a lot to unpack from today.
There is a lot. First is, on that last point you made, interesting parallel with the Blues, who have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack there. I think the main takeaway from what I learned is the Cardinals readdressing the player development side in the minor leagues, something they'd gotten away from. Obviously, they didn't say it that way, but they obviously did, or they wouldn't have to go back to it.
Yeah.
And that's the indictment on the organization, in my view. The slave-like commitment to advanced metrics that really came to a head with the firing of Walt Jocketty. That was the beginning of the end. We just didn't know it then. But that was the beginning of the end. It took another decade plus for us to start to see how it eroded at what is called, and I don't say this disrespectfully, I say it respectfully, the Cardinal way.
They still won a world. I mean, they still won a World Series after they got rid of Walt Jocketty. So
Joe, you're not listening to me. I said it began eroded and took well over a decade to really see how that happened.
But to say, I feel like to say it's the beginning of the end, that seems a little extreme to me.
I don't think so, and here's why. Mo and others in the office, Lunau, Mo, Mr. DeWitt, all decided they wanted to be Brad Pitt. They didn't want to be Billy Beane. They wanted to be Brad Pitt. And they decided that the metrics are going to do the whole thing. And here's why. Because they thought they could outthink everybody else and use it to put values on players and help the financial equation. But over time, and I want to emphasize that, over time, it eroded, and eventually we got away from the Cardinal way. And they realized how to pay players, but not how to develop them. The last man standing was Mike Schilt, and we know what happened to him. And since Schilt left, we see what happened. They haven't developed players. There have been good players that come through, but for whatever reason, one after another has failed here. And so I can't give the Cardinals credit for fixing a problem that they created. Same thing with politicians. You created a problem. Now you go fix it and you want credit for it? No, you made the problem.
Lost you there for a second at the end. Some of the other.
I said was, I can't give you credit for fixing a problem that you created.
Right. So Chaim Bloom will, I guess he will get full control. He'll get to the reins will be handed off to him after the 2025 season. It would be very, very hard to believe that he won't be in charge or get a huge, healthy say of how the Cardinal team will look on the field in 2025. But the DeWitts came out and said today that they are going to be cutting payroll for the next year, as it stands right now. When the 2024 season comes to an end, the Cardinals will have the 11th highest payroll in all of baseball, just with contracts they already have on the books for 2025. So that number expect it to drop. Expect it to drop and expect them to be probably in the bottom half of payroll throughout baseball. And that'll be the first time in a long time that that'll be the case. Some of the big things to watch or some of the big things to note. First of all, I mean, I don't recall it being addressed today, but it has been addressed in media and it's been kind of known for the last maybe week now. Paul Goldschmidt will not be returning to the St. Louis Cardinals. They have said
you and I have been talking about that for 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're I mean, we go all the way. You go all the way back though to spring training. Talk of an extension, even as long as even as short as a month ago, there was talk of a possible extension with Paul Goldschmidt. The Cardinals have decided they are not going to go ahead with Paul Goldschmidt.
Right.
He will be on his way. The shocking one that kind of came out this weekend was the report of Sonny Gray being on the trading block after signing him to a 3-year, $75 million deal. Only $10 million of that was paid to him this year. $65 million of that still due to him in the final 2 years of that contract. But the Cardinals will be looking to unload him in this offseason. Also, reports of possibly moving Wilson Contreras, which I think shouldn't surprise anybody. And others, I would say maybe Ryan Helsley, maybe Nolan Arenado, also on the move, depending on what you can get back for them.
All right, start that list over again, because to put them all lumped together, I think is well, when it comes to budget, I see that, but I think each guy's got his own story.
Sonny Gray, let's start with him. 2 years remaining on his deal, about $65 million to go on that.
What do you think? What if he'd have won 20 games, pitched 240 innings, and was in the top 3 or 4 in Cy Young conversation? You think they'd still be talking about it?
If you're going to give me what ifs on every player we're about to talk about, Cardinals would have been a 90-win team, and we'd be previewing their game tomorrow in the first round of the wild card.
Well, I wasn't talking related to the season. I'm trying to talk about how we pick and choose who makes the budget or who doesn't. But if you want to go to the what ifs, and I don't, and I think I don't want to speak for you, but that you're painting me into the anti-Cardinal guy.
No, I definitely was not. No.
Okay. In fact, I think the front office did a good job getting this team ready for the season.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with innings eaters versus really good pitchers, but that was their philosophy, and they fulfilled it. Those guys 8 innings. They addressed the bullpen. The bullpen was terrific.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't count on was 50 home runs that they needed between Gorman, Goldie, and Arenado were gone. Put 50 home runs on that team, you're in the playoffs.
Yes.
So
let's get back to possibly moving Sonny Gray and the idea. So you sign him to a 3-year deal, and after 1 year, your philosophy now changes. So you're looking.
I don't think it changes because I don't think they can move Michaelis. If you could move Michaelis and take that completely off the books, I think they'd keep Gray. But I don't think that they think they can move Miles.
Who would want him?
That's my point.
Right.
And so what do? You and I are talking budgets in the front office, and we're going, oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to move money out of the rotation. And there you go.
The only thing you could do is call the Marlins and say, hey, you want a local guy that you can, put some marketing around for next year? Because this is all you got. Like that's honestly the only thing I feel like you could do, because his performance on the field, you're not selling that to anybody as far as you're just selling hey, you want a local guy that might sell you 20 more tickets next year? All right.
And that's why they had to turn to Gray's contract.
Yeah. So
the other thing, Contreras, you said I don't remember the exact word, kind of obvious, or we were expecting why they would move their best player and the best voice in the clubhouse is absolutely beyond me, except that, once again, if somebody says a contrarian word, now he's on the enemies list. And we can go down the list. He was your best hitter and a leader.
I think, though, as we start to look at the organization moving forward, he is not not a major league catcher. He's a major league hitter. He's not a major league catcher. And I think if they are going to move forward, they want to focus and get back to maybe focusing on defensive catching. And I think they see that's not Wilson Contreras.
Well, I don't know who they have then.
Pages?
He's not as good as Pagnazzi or Matheny.
What about with a year of development and a year of saying, hey, you know, because I could tell you, I mean, I was down in spring training for a week and I didn't hear the name Pedro Pages one time.
I hear you.
So, I mean, when it was bullpen time, it was Ivan Herrera and it was Wilson Contreras. So you give those guys starting in February a chance to throw to Pedro Pages and you give him a whole offseason to work. How much better does he get?
I don't know.
So I think that's maybe moving forward what you kind of look at, and you hope that Ivan Herrera, if you're looking for a bat, maybe that's what Ivan Herrera brings to you. And you're also cutting payroll, though. You're also cutting payroll.
Without Contreras, Herrera's your best hitter.
Yeah.
Yet they didn't play him every day.
I don't know about best hitter. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think he's your best hitter.
My head explode. You can't score runs and you keep your best hitter on the bench. Can anybody explain it?
Also,
we got to get Luke and Baker some swings. What?
Nolan Arenado, I feel like, is going to be the easiest one to move, knowing that he did have another decent year. And I think you move him to a major market team that's willing to take on a majority of his contract, if not all of it. And he's not there expected to be a number 4 hitter at this point in his career.
Yeah, he hit 6 or 7 for a really good lineup.
Yeah. Yankees, Dodgers, you put him there at third base and they'll eat that contract and you're fine.
Definitely.
With that. Ryan Helsley, possibility of moving him.
Actually, I wasn't at I just saw clips.
I've seen that name in reports. Possibly Ryan Helsley also being moved this offseason.
How does that make any sense? Can you figure that?
Long term, I mean, just knowing that you got one good year out of him health wise, and closers, the lifespan of a closer isn't that long to begin with.
Well, Kenley Jansen, Hader. I mean, there's a number of them that have been around a while.
But none of them. I mean, Josh Hader didn't have the injury. Doesn't have the injury list of Ryan Helsley. That one, it sucks, but I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I don't hold a whole lot of. I don't hold closers high on my priority list when it comes to building a team.
Well, when you don't have one, you can't win.
Right.
You can't win.
I agree with that. I do agree with that sentiment, though.
So if they move him, that's absolutely telling us they have no intent on contending. 0. Whereas just because you go to a youth movement doesn't mean you're not going to contend.
Right.
I'm not willing to. Most of the fans I'm talking to and hearing go, "Oh, youth movement. Now it's going to be a couple of years." No, not if you got good young players. I'm not willing to concede that. But if you take the record-setting closer for your entire franchise and its history, say, "Yeah, we're going to go without him," then you've told me you don't plan to contend. How can I then listen to you when you want to sell me season tickets?
We'll get into we'll jump into next year and we'll talk about the ticket sales here in a bit. One final one that I have that's I think a possibility when you're looking at trading guys and you're looking at moving forward. The possibility of trading one of the left-handed bats that you have in your lineup, and let's look at a Donovan or a Nootbaar that you have in there when you look at a crowded outfield and you look at what's possible for next season. The idea of moving one of those two, and also this coming out of reports this past weekend of Ali having a conversation with Lars Nootbaar about his performance this past year and things he could improve and kind of where he stands as far as what his role was on the team.
I understood it, and you're more connected than me. I understood it that Lars called the meeting. Is that not the way you got it?
Yeah, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
it was kind of pointed out to him, hey, look,
You're not
here's
even
where
hitting 250.
right, here's where your approach and hitting is way out of whack, and here are your defensive numbers when you're in center field compared to the corner outfield positions. Like you want to sit here and call yourself out, like, you know, it's 2024. Here's the numbers. Like we're gonna lay it all out here.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's one of the few Cardinals with a good on base percentage. If they move him, I get that. To even mention possibly moving Donovan makes me sick to my stomach.
I would
He's the
agree with
one
that.
guy.
Yeah.
He's the one guy that could have played for the Cardinals in any era.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to the 26 championship team.
He is a spark plug for the team and a guy that you keep around, not knowing what the opening day roster looks like, but knowing he can start for your opening day roster somewhere on the field.
He better
for 2025. So I think that's one of those where as you start to move guys around, no matter who you move, you could say, well, we're going to move Newbar. Who's going to play left? Oh, Donovan can play left. We're going to move Arenado. Well, who could play third? Donovan can play third. We're gonna keep Sagasi down in AAA to start the year. Who could play second? Oh, Donovan can play second. You have he can play everywhere, and he can be that guy that will fill in somewhere out on the field. So I think if you're looking at how that's going to start to shape up, if they have this plan in place, I mean there's not going to be trades in October during the postseason. They better hit the ground running in November to get some of these things moving and give us an idea of how things are shaping up.
Well, they can still communicate.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're not going to see the trades in October, but to lay out all of these plans, everything it should be ready to go as soon as off season opens.
Yeah. So we've talked about this in the past. What do they expect their identity to be? They're not going to outslug people. Can they out-defend people? Well, only if you've got good pitching, speed, and defense. The Cardinals were reluctant to, and actually, in my view, refused to run. They refused to run. They tried to shore up the defense, but then they didn't have situational hitting to go with it. I think the organization doesn't know who they want to be, and that's a problem. So you got two left-handed hitting center, two left-handed batting center fielders who neither one can hit. You got a right fielder who doesn't appear that he can hit. You don't know who's going to play first base. They've got some real issues. I'm not as discouraged about the pitching because I think there are some young arms. I know the adage, don't fall in or out of love in September or March, but how do you not like McGreevy in your rotation, right? You and I both love him.
He's my opening day starter.
Yeah.
Right. He's my opening day starter. I don't care who you have next year. Give him 35 starts next year and let him go. I'm all on board with McGreevy in my rotation. I don't care who he faced in the that he only faced non-playoff teams. I want him starting for me. I want him in that rotation immediately, and I'm upset they didn't confirm that today in the meeting.
I'm with you. But once we agree completely.
Right. So you look ahead. So, okay, this is where I play the optimist on it, Rammer, and you bring me back down to earth when we talk about the 2025 season. I will start off by saying I think you and I can both agree they're not going to be the 2024 White Sox. That's not what we are looking at when we talk about what the 2025 season. But my reason for hope is the fact that you had an opening day starting lineup in 2024, a team that for most of the season seemed like they were in contention for the playoffs, regardless of how frustrating they were at times. That you had an opening day roster and you still have all these guys with you, 4 guys under 24. You still have Victor Scott, Nolan Gorman, Mason Wynn, Jordan Walker, 4 guys that it would be absolutely foolish to write off or say that, oh, these guys are terrible, they don't belong. No, they're 4 major league ball players that just need some work with development, which the Cardinals have said they are going to go out and spend that money on. this offseason. So you do have that. You have Alec Burleson, who hit the hell out of the ball this year, and who will also be there in your starting lineup for next year. We've mentioned Brendan Donovan that you have as well. That's also that should be there too. So that right off the bat, I mean, that is 6 of your starting 9. And you have Thomas Sagasi too, that came up and I think probably did enough to earn himself a spot to start next year, if it's somewhere maybe in the field.
See how
So
March goes.
yeah, so you have 6, 7 guys that I just named, plus whoever's going to catch. Big question as to who you end up trading, whether Nolan Arenado's in the middle of that lineup, which I can't imagine he'd be happy about being surrounded by that. But you know what? 4 years of Goldschmidt and Arenado, they won 0 playoff games. So for him to want to complain about
it wasn't their fault, but your point is well taken. They want to be on contenders, move them on.
Right. But you know what? He had a chance to be a contender for the past 4 years. And the last 2 years, I mean, he wasn't. I think I mean, I very easily can put blame on him for some of that.
Well, yeah, I don't see that. He was he about 10 homers short? Yes. Yeah, I'm not willing to do that. I think you do him a favor and move him to a contender because he's a good guy and a good player.
Also, moving as you kind of look at the pitching for the years to come, you do have a lot of a lot of past first round draft picks that are coming up through the system. Yeah. You have McGravy, you have Tink Hence, you have, is it Herpy, whatever.
Yeah,
you have the other lefty that worked his way up from single A all the way to triple A this offseason. You have Graceffo that's in your minor league organization. You have Palante, who came on and pitched really well as a starter late in the year. So you have arms in your system that, again, with the correct development, could become much better than what we have seen and greatly improve over the next year if you're focusing on that player development.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, going to a youth movement for the starting rotation in particular. You know, Palante might end up being the oldest guy. Well, Michaelis will be there unless some miracle happens. And then everybody else around him, I guess. But you got 3 or 4 guys who you'd like to see him get a shot. I agree.
And then on top of that, I mean, you talk first round draft picks, you do have Weatherford that was down in A-ball this past year, but you have a guy in your minor league system who many thought was going to be the number 1 overall draft pick this past year and fell to you at number 7. So it's just another bat in the organization. And we've seen how quickly some of these guys have moved their way up through the system and have become major league ready. So you do have a bright future of prospects that are coming up. And again, if you know, I guess if you're the marketing department, it's time to just promote the kids. You know, the kids are ready to play type of deal.
Yeah, I think that's what they'll probably do. If they move Arenado, would we rather have Gorman at third or would we rather have Donovan? I think Gorman, but I don't know. I just haven't seen him defend either one of them play enough third base to know.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Nolan Gorman and all of that too. With I guess I talked about him when I talked about opening day under 24. But yeah, that's again, there is enough there to where, I mean, we're diehards. We talk about it every day, and so yes, I think to sit here and say there's your starting 9, I think it's easy for us to do that. Whereas I think, you know, the casual fan is going to go to games next year wondering who the hell some of these guys are.
Well, that's true. You could end up with a Victor Scott, Michael Ciani, Jordan Walker outfield. You really could. And if you look at their numbers from this year, you'd go, oh, geez. But can 2 of the 3 of them, can all 3, they don't have to be all-stars, but can they be competent major league hitters? You know, and if you get that, can Scott, Wynn, and Ciani start stealing bases? I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Joe. Look at these rosters all over the big leagues, guys with 40. I mean, guys you never heard of, 40 stolen bases, 37 stolen bases. And the Cardinals chose not to run. Yeah, I just don't get it.
And then I guess that gives you an infield then. Let's just go Burleson, Sagasi, Wynn, and Gorman around there. And we didn't even mention Donovan anywhere either.
I have Donovan at second instead of Sagasi. I think needs more seasoning.
Okay. All right. So there you go. There are, I guess, well, you could put one of those guys at first, and then you have DH too, Burleson DH, and figure out the rest.
You could do that or have Burleson at first and Herrera DH.
Jordan Walker also possibly in there too. Hey, we just went through it starting 9 for opening day. Look at that. Here we are, September 30th, and we're already well on our way for our April whatever show.
Let's save this and then look back at it when we actually see the opening day starting lineup.
Overall tone of the press conference today, Rammer, as we wrap this up, what did you go in there expecting, and how did you walk away from it?
I did not actually go in there. I saw written reports.
I meant when you were watching, listening. I meant with knowing when it was going to happen. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Perfectly honest. I already told you the first one. You're not going to get credit for fixing things that you walked away from.
Yeah.
2, you're going to lose Randy Flores. He's going to be a GM somewhere else. Did you make a mistake passing him over? I guess only time will tell on that one.
A big question that leaves from that: who is the GM of the Cardinals?
It'll be Bloom.
And so, I mean, that's just, I mean, there is no GM in title right now with the Cardinals.
No.
So, and is that going to be something that gets fixed or something that's going to get changed in 26? I guess time will tell on that.
Yeah, the titles come and go. That doesn't bother me that much. But we'll see what Bloom's got, I guess.
Yeah.
And they've got to get on this development thing and develop them fast. That's for sure.
Right. So we will, we will find out all of that once the offseason starts. Yes.
One other quick note before you wrap it up. We're told Ollie will have a little more say-so in roster composition and maybe some development stuff. That is a really good idea. Tony La Russa had it. Joe Torre had it. Whitey Herzog had it. Red Shandings had it. That gives me a little hope that we're going back to the Cardinal way. And even if it's just a little, I'll take it.
We will be back tomorrow here on Daily Cards Live, early tomorrow, as we get ready for a full 3 days of playoff baseball as the wild card round starts tomorrow. And
High holy days.
There is a lot to talk about, especially in the National League with things that transpired today. But we will get to that tomorrow morning here on Daily Cards Live. And as always, brought to you throughout the whole regular season and in the postseason by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Rammer, and also Royal Banks.
Royal Banks of Missouri. You're looking for a refi, a mortgage, a home equity credit line, a car loan, whatever you need in the banking world, Royal Banks is there for you with locations all over the metro area and in Northeast Missouri. It's Royal Banks of Missouri, where better service means better banking. Member FDIC, an equal opportunity lender.
He is Bob Ramsey. I'm Joe Roderick. We will talk to you tomorrow right here on another edition of Daily Cards Live.
Mungenast St. Louis Acura has the all-electric Acura ZDX. The ZDX can go up to 313 miles on a single charge, and the DC fast charging lets the ZDX gain up to 80 miles in just 10 minutes. When you lease an Acura ZDX, you can save up to $7,500 with a federal EV lease credit. Or you can buy the new ZDX and get 0.9% for up to 72 months. Come on in to Mungenast St. Louis Acura and take a look at the new ZDX for yourself.